today. I hope that everyone had a great weekend and that you were able to get outside and enjoy the warmer weather. As I just mentioned, today's meeting is being recorded. I know there were several people that could not attend. I'll be sure to share the recording with the campus within the next couple of days. I'm joined by Adrian Dunham, who's helping with the technology and some of the co-hosting duties. So Adrian, thanks again. I appreciate it. If anyone has a question, they can enter it in the chat or by raising their hands. If you do enter something in the chat, one of us will read the question to Margaret, our presenter today, or if you raise your hand, we can let her know the name of the person, someone has a question and so forth, and we'll be sure to unmute that person. So today's meeting is really all about you. I'm well aware of the fact that maintaining spirits and productivity, boosting morale, preserving one's confidence can be extremely challenging these days. The pandemic continues to create a great deal of fear, anxiety, and stressors. And it really goes without saying, it's impacted our personal and our professional lives in such substantial ways. So that being said, my team and I were constantly sharing and thinking about the challenges that exist for the campus. And we do continue to investigate ways to support students, of course, everybody here today, all of the employees, and whenever possible, be able to provide some assistance. So and really, that's why I thought this month's meeting would be an appropriate time to gather, learn about strategies, some techniques that you all can utilize to improve your overall well-being and what it is to really thrive in this complicated and socially distanced era. So I've asked Margaret DeMarino to present at today's, we're calling it a workshop. She's going to be presenting on the new normal. Earlier today, if you check your email, I shared a version of her presentation, so please be sure to refer to that information when appropriate. And some of you already know Margaret. She's been a presence at some of the community colleges within our system. She's taught ESL. She recently taught a workshop on communication skills in times of stress. That was a state in-service training. She also offers numerous 3-day certificate programs for his Nantucket Community College. And the topics range from anything from upward mobility, supervisory skills, emotional intelligence, business writing skills, the list goes on. So Margaret also leads workshops for various businesses, nonprofits, and other organizations on similar topics, including communication, customer service, leadership, and the like. So she and I, we've been going back and forth during the last couple of weeks. I've shared with her some of the concerns I have at the college and what it means for our workforce. So she has a great understanding of the reality out there, but is here to help. So at this time, I'm going to turn things over to her for her presentation. And we have an hour window to work within. So Margaret, I'm going to turn things over to you now.
Thank you so much, Daryl. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much to our virtual room here. It's a room with a lot of people in it, and I'm very thrilled each and every one of you are here. I'm here to help. If you have any questions afterwards, my email address is on the handout. Just, send me a quick email, and I'll meet you on WebEx and talk to you for 5 minutes if you need that cheerleading pep talk. So it is my pleasure to be here with you. And, just remember leading one of these workshops at one of the state agencies, and the HR director who was taking the workshop just looked at me and said, in the class, and he said, I miss people. I miss people. Now, some real introverted types might be fine with not hobnobbing with people, but for most of us, especially educators and people drawn to the educational institution, we're really kind of state of not seeing as many people, working from home, etc. My last experience at Tunxis was a wonderful one. I had my lovely visiting Korean students who Gary Kara arranged, to come through both as Nantucket and Texas Community College through Chongdong University. I was in the student union shooting pool with them as a way of goodbye, saying "Annyeong higaseyo" and "Sangraheyo," like goodbye and I love you, because that's basically how you roll with the South Koreans. And they were so concerned, or I was so concerned about them going into this pandemic that was in South Korea at the time. And naively speaking, I feel so bad for them. Of course, it will never come here. Famous last words. shortly after, I was getting emails from lots of South Koreans saying, we'd love to send you a mask, but we're not allowed to send them outside the country, still thinking I was safe. And of course, we all know what the ensuing months have left us. So now we're in a Zoom world. We're in a world where a lot of our interaction is done on camera. Sometimes I phone my friends at night and they say, let's do duo chat. And I'm like, I'm so sick of being on camera. I just want to have no makeup on and not worry about things. So it's a quite different world. It's a different world with human interaction. So my idea is to try to put together a workshop, and I've been doing a lot of these, in which we kind of talk about, like, okay, what are some of the difficult things that we face that's, working from home. And since I've worked from home most of my life, in addition to doing workshops, I have my home office, and I'm just very familiar with the environment and some of the challenges of working when you're doing laundry and all that other stuff that we're going to have to do in this day and age, when we're working either in a hybrid environment or a work from home environment. So my goal is to kind of, let's all see if we can come up with one or two things to make our lives easier. Please share in chat. Adrienne is very conditioned. We've had lots of talks about how she can read your chat comments at any point. It would be lovely to hear from you. If you want to, just let Adrienne know, and she'll let you unmute your mic, and we'll be in great shape. So the first thing I want to do is just talk a little bit about what it is, like to work from home. And I'm going to share my screen with you so you can see my PowerPoint. And you will have a PDF version of the PowerPoint, which you can refer to. You don't need to. It's not an obligation. It's just sometimes people ask me for them afterwards. So I headed them off at the pass by doing them before. So here we go. So the first thing I want to talk about is thriving while teleworking. So again, it's this odd thing that a lot of us probably didn't even know about, a couple of years ago, as far as being teleworking and what are the semantics of teleworking. But guess what? Now, lo and behold, here we are. And it's, a lot of times people would say stuff like, well, it must be nice having a job where you can work from home. Yeah, in theory, here sometimes it's a cartoon that kind of displays the reality. This is kind of what my office looks like right now. I don't know about yours, but I have my meeting view zone, which I carefully staged, and lots of messes on either side. I'm always saying it's amazing that my camera doesn't have peripheral vision, because part of working from home is like all of a sudden, like, I was actually tearing apart my office to paint it and have books and boxes and stuff to be donated when this all happened. So again, we all do our best, right? Now, here's a typical Zoom meeting schedule, 1 to 1:05. You wait for the host to start the meeting. Then someone discovers virtual backgrounds, which can kind of be fun. I've had some really kind of fun people putting virtual backgrounds, like they know I'm a Red Sox fan, so they'll put a pinstripe background in the background. All kinds of fun can be had with virtual backgrounds, but sometimes it can absolutely take away. Someone struggles with the audio. Oh, of course, that's a given. Let me try the headphones. Someone holds up their cat. I'm always into looking at people's animals or babies, so feel free to do that in my workshop. And then sometimes the actual meeting time gets reduced down and ends with a stay safe. And then, of course, this is me at night. Sometimes I do dream and Zoom. And it's kind of like, yes, I'm online all the time. So what I want to start with is I want you to think of a couple of things that you are challenged by, and then we're going to kind of brainstorm with some new things to try. So Adrienne is going to be looking for your chat and kind of giving me a couple of these chat challenges. So just type things that you think I might be able to help you with, not like the dogs are barking, because other than telling you to perhaps buy a controversial no bark collar, I really can't help you too much at getting your dog to stop barking. But anybody want to type in chat a couple of issues about what are you challenged by in this pandemic in terms of working from home? And Adrienne, whenever you have a couple of them out to read to me, go for it. And if there aren't any, just let me know and I'll make some up.
Not working all the time. That's a good one.
Mm-hmm. 2 jobs, homeschool and working, absolutely. Okay, that went kind of fast. Kids at home, toddlers on remote learning. Yes, that's a difficult one.
Getting students engaged in online classes.
Getting students engaged?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so let's take a couple of those. Not working at all hours. So I'm going to say this later, but just in case you don't hear it now, yes, learning all this technology, trust me, I get it. And then talking into the void, anyone out there? Yes, I'm here. I hear you. I get it though. So those are some absolutely wonderful chat things, and keep them up. And then I really want you guys to actively engage. I love some of these. Did someone mention dogs? I did. So what I want you to do is to actively keep looking at the change when once again in English, the chat window, because you may have something to say to someone else, and basically private chat the person or group chat if you have a solution. But let's just take a couple of these. So not working at all hours. I'm going to talk about this later on, but it's something that I might as well say now because I think it's an ideal solution. And the first thing is that just because you can do something doesn't mean you have to. Write that down. Just because I can do something doesn't mean I have to. So many times people will see their email on their phone come in at 10 o'clock, and sure, of course, you're totally 100% capable of answering that email right then and there. But why? If you're always feeling like you can't shut off work, you're not going to have the mental health that is so important to thrive in a pandemic. We need to have breaks. Now, if it comes from Daryl, of course, all bets are off. Answer that email. But otherwise, really, why answer emails? Nobody, not one person I know, with all respect to my lovely coworkers who I work with a lot, and they know who they are, and I do love and adore them, but no one answers my emails 100% of the time as soon as I send it. So why do we have to do it? Email is not meant to work that way. It's meant to work in the way that an ASAP kind of way. Don't ignore them. Try to answer them in a reasonable amount of time. But for me, I think that's one thing. We're constantly looking at things. Oh, I can't do that. It only takes 5 minutes. It only takes 5 minutes. And then we're not respecting our boundaries, and we're doing a little bit of burnout. Almost everybody I know who is an efficient worker ahead of time, people that had good reputations for competency. People really love working with them. Every single person I know that I've talked to said that they're working at least twice as hard. And I'm sure there's some slackers that manage to sneak in between the cracks and do less work. But I think this is something that we're working harder at. Now, with that, learning all the new technology, you have to take a beat, right? You have to reach out to the IT departments. I've had limited access with Texas because I've taught there a lot less than as non-tech. But I will tell you, we have awesome IT departments. They really know what they're doing. And I was able to roll out my courses at Gateway, another college. Pandemic hit March 13th. School was shut down March 15th. I rolled them out because of the IT people that really can teach us stuff. But it is frustrating to constantly have that learning burnout, or like one more thing to do. And so we'll address issues with working from home a little bit later. There's some really good articles that I have in the links that hopefully you'll find are useful. And we'll just keep on rolling along now. Adrienne, was there anything else that struck you in the chat that you think would be a good one to kind of do a 3-second triage on?
I think while this isn't something you can necessarily address or fix, the problem is still the same. It's this actual physical space.
Yeah.
People find it hard to either work in something that's not conducive or pretty or welcoming. We have a bunch of others that are related to the actual students on the other end, keeping them engaged. That's a challenge. Daryl, did you see anything that jumped out?
No, I think you captured it. A lot of times is, Margaret, the need to hop from one meeting to the next one. So your downtime is really limited, and you don't have an opportunity to sort of just catch your breath.
And we may have lost Margaret for the moment, which is okay. We're all gonna just bear with her while she reconnects. And I've got a question for you all. Bear with me another moment. This is the challenges, right? Finding all the places where you put all of your stuff. All right. What's one thing you do to make work from home life better or more productive? For example, establish a morning routine or take a walk during lunch hour. Then you could perhaps read. Oh, sorry, that's a note for me. So let's all put one thing. Oh, we got Margaret back. Hold on. Let's unmute.
I think she did that on purpose, Adrian.
Oh, okay. My apologies.
I'm just teasing.
I like to mess with me.
All right, so let's try to unmute her. Hold on, Margaret. We're going to unmute you.
Looks like her connection isn't really. There we go. We might have lost her again. Oh.
Adrian, can you unmute her from where you are?
I sent her the request to unmute. Let me just unmute everybody for a moment. Okay. So she should, let's see. She should be able to.
Hello.
There we go. How are you, Margaret? Can you hear us?
Unmute me. I'm on mute.
There we go. You're good.
Okay, thanks. Somehow I got unmuted and couldn't mute myself. Hey, everyone. I'm awfully sorry about that. We're good to go. Adrian?
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know what happened. I got kicked off WebEx, which just kind of shows what happens with WebEx and other programs, that everything can look wonderful and then you're gone. So thank you for putting up with that. And I'm sure Adrian has done a marvelous job in interacting with all of that. And so, Adrian, were you able to kind of get some of the issues? I can't hear you, Adrian. You're muted.
One of them is the technology itself.
And perfect case, actually, Adrian and I planned that. So I would get kicked off just to kind of show you. No, just kidding. But it does show you that you just can't get ruffled. You know, you just have to have a plan B. We had our plan B, which was I had the link all set to go. And so that's part of it. And I find that people are very forgiving with stuff. We're all on broadband in New Haven where I live. And basically, Adrian, I'm just going to ask you to mute because we have a little echo. Thanks. So we're all on broadband where I live, and so it happens, you know. So that's part of the way I look at living in a pandemic is these things happen, and we don't have the control over them. So we're all going to do the best that we can. So let's go back to hopefully those are some like little quick stopgap things with the handout. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to ask you to do a couple of things now, which should be fun. So give me 1 second to share and I'll be over. So one of the things that I find is no one has taught us to work in a pandemic. I didn't get the field book. I didn't get the directions. I didn't get this is how you work and survive and thrive in a pandemic. So as part of the handout, I'm going to do two essential things. And the first essential thing we're going to talk about is just the mental health part of it, the wellness part of working in a pandemic and how we go through that. And so I have a couple of suggestions on how to basically better yourself during all of this. And the first one is I'm going to invite you all to keep a My Wonderful Things During Quarantine list, because we kind of forget about quarantine, like what's going on as we're here. We're going to forget the really, really good, wonderful stuff that happens. So I really am asking people to keep this. If you have a smartphone with a notebook, I mean, you all have smartphones, but if you have one with like a notepad, like Evernote, every time something good happens, because of the quarantine, like something that I feel more positive about, more connection with family, whatever it is, baby hugs, like the fact that I walked into my grandniece's house and my niece's house the other day, and my grandniece jumped up and down to greet me. You know, I mean, that might have happened outside, but I don't know. I just think there's so many wonderful things happening. We have to put a little list together. So you can read mine. Part of it is no offense to as Nantucket, but I got to eliminate my 114 round trip to commute to as Nantucket, which I love. I love that college, and I can't wait to be back. But my couch, you have couch to class kind of type of environment now where you don't have to. I can teach in my bare feet, which I am today. Shh, don't tell anyone. No more traffic jams or accidents. Just lots of lovely things down to I alphabetically organize my spice rack, which I doubt if I wouldn't have done it. So it's a mixture of personal and professional. So I strongly recommend that you keep a list like this because we forget about all the advantages. And when you go looking for advantages of working someplace, it makes you feel good. And part about thriving from home is to feel good about things, not to feel saving a lot of money on gas. Absolutely, David. That is so true. I mean, I've actually saved a lot more money on things in general. And I love the fact that you guys are putting them into chat. That's awesome. So one of the things that we have to do during quarantine or during any kind of period where our mind might be prone to racing is really be vigilant on observing our thoughts. And there's a lot of stuff which talks about thoughts are not facts. There's a lot of psychology, positive psychology, all that kind of stuff there. And basically, I stole this from Byron Katie. She's I know, you get to wear well leggings every day. I like that. Some other ones, yoga pants and being barefoot while teaching. Absolutely. These are wonderful things during the quarantine. So keep a list. And I like that. Oh, and she said facts, Alicia. Oh, gosh. But okay, so let's talk about the difference between a thought and a fact and why that's important. So a thought could be something like, this quarantine is never, ever going to end. And a fact is like, this quarantine doesn't have a definite ending. And how do you feel when you think each one? It's really important. Adrian, did you want to say something? Oh, because you're unmuted. So if you don't mind muting yourself back, I hear some background stuff. Hi. Okay. So is it true is the first thing. If something comes to your mind, and let's say it's a thought that you're just kind of frustrated about, like, oh, nobody's going to take my class next semester and it won't fill. Okay, so let's say that is a thought that you as an educator has. Or let's say as a staff member, you have a thought that, like, I'll never get to see students again. Well, is it true? Ask yourself, is it true? This is Byron Katie's work. And usually we go, yeah, it kind of is. And then the second thing is absolutely true, 100% certainty. And that's when we begin to see the wiggle room in this kind of thing. The third and fourth things I think are really crucial. How does this thought make me feel? So when I choose that thought, how do I feel? And I'm a big believer in sharing feelings, not just thoughts. So thoughts are long explanations, but a feeling is like one word. It makes me feel frustrated. It makes me feel happy. It makes me feel stressed. And so really asking ourselves, if we have a practice thought, which can become a belief very easily, because a belief is just a bunch of thoughts that you've practiced over and over, how do you feel? And then where would you be if you didn't have that belief or that thought? How would you feel differently? So I think during times of coronavirus, during times of very hotly contested election, during times of a lot of stress, somebody talked about learning all the new technologies. All of us are teaching our style, our learning, our relationships with coworkers. There's no more quick answers by putting our head over the cubicle and getting them from the cubicle next door. I can't wait outside Gary Kara's office at his Nantucket if I have a bunch of questions for him. There's just the way you're dealing with different ways of dealing with people is all changing. So we have to make sure that our thoughts around these are really positive. And making sure something is a thought and then questioning it, because a lot of times when we're in times of high anxiety, of stress, we'll get a thought that comes into our mind that's not really helpful. Thoughts like, I'll never figure out this computer system, or WebEx is not dependable, or I can't believe that I have to fill out this form now, or why are they making me do that? And all those thoughts, really listening to them, if they're not helpful, then change your thoughts, because thoughts are not fact. A thought is not a fact. And that's where the is it true kind of question comes in. So if you constantly talk to everybody, watch your language. If you're saying, oh my God, my husband's driving me crazy working from home, well, you can argue with me and say that is a fact. And I would say, well, it may be true for now, but how do you know that's going to be true forever? And if something isn't true forever, then it's not a fact, right? A fact is indelible and it doesn't change based on someone's interpretation. It's something that stays true. So a lot of what we're going to do is kind of look at how we can kind of get into better feeling thoughts and feel more empowered, along with some actual practical practices that we can do on a day-to-day basis. So before we get to the teleworking tips and all that kind of stuff, I want you, and this will be a great thing, you guys have been great with putting things into chat. So I'm going to share with you my favorite coping with COVID-19 mantra, and I'm going to share with you a couple more, and then I want you to share with me yours. So I strongly advise that for the rest of this pandemic, however it may be, for as long as you're teleworking, that you come up with a mantra that whenever you say it makes you feel empowered. So for me, mine is the first one. Everything always works out for me. So if I have a frustration, is the class going to fill? Is it not going to fill? Are my students going to be engaged? Is this one more technology I have to learn? Is this new fillable form going to work out well? Anything like that. I just say, everything always works out for me. Then I feel really soft around the issue. I repeat the mantra, like whenever I'm feeling stressed. So like, for example, in the couple of moments where I had to sign back on and was, having that little worry, is this going to happen every 3 minutes? I'm going to get kicked off. Well, I just said, nope, it'll work out. Everything always works out. So really getting your COVID-19 mantra. I can't stress enough that I like that one. David said you can't change. Oops, it went too fast. Maybe Adrian can read it to me and the other chat window. Go ahead.
Can't change the past, but you can't change the future.
I like that. That's a really powerful one when you think of it. Marguerite, we cannot cure the. Okay, go ahead. You can read them because they disappear fast on my screen, Adrian.
Sure. We cannot cure the world of sadness, but we can learn to live in joy. Joseph.
Yeah. And I love stuff like that. And again, here's a little thing that I would recommend. Take a dry erase marker. Teachers, you know what I mean? And a dry erase marker will work on any reflective surface. So like you can put it on your mirror or a mirror that no one else sees, or you can put it on a window and basically just wash it off with any kind of paper, like paper towel or toilet paper when you don't want it there anymore. But getting ourselves pumped up by seeing our mantra is really important. So I'm going to ask you for a minute and then I'll have Adrienne read some that came in. It's just create your own COVID-19 mantra. And Adrienne, whenever you're ready, I'll give them a minute to think. You can start reading them.
Okay, we've got another one. If it is to be, it is up to me.
Oh, I love that. Anything else?
Not yet.
Okay, so I'll let you have time to think about that and time to collect some more. But essentially, a word that you say in your head can be very powerful for getting through the COVID-19 situation. So the next thing I want is somebody just said 2 minutes ago in their mantra or whatever, that what can you control and what can't you control. So if any of you have the handout, you can certainly write in this. If not, take a piece of paper, put a line down the middle, and quick as a bunny, do this intuitively. Don't try to think too long on it. Write a list of at least 5 things that you can control and 5 things you can't control in these times. What can you control and what can't you control? I'll give you a minute to think and then start typing them into chat.
And while they're thinking, we've got a few. This is not forever. Focus on today. Counting my blessings. And oh well.
Adrienne, I often say, instead of saying, oh hell, say, oh wow. It makes such a huge difference between the different type of energy. Along with that, I have another saying that is, don't get furious, get curious. Because if you're upset about something, instead of being, try to figure out why, try to figure out a solution. I listened to an interesting, I'm just going to mute you for a second because I hear some background. Okay, so, or I guess maybe you can mute yourself and then unmute at any point, Adrienne, because you're very helpful to me. I was listening to a podcast where it talked about the idea of when time is really when things are really driving you crazy, don't worry about the situation so much. worry about the key objective. So the podcaster gave this idea of somebody was just really being crazy by going on Zoom all the time. He was like, I'm so many Zoom meetings and then WebEx chat, and then I have to have a WebEx meeting with my boss, every day. And then I feel like I have to have my makeup on and this, and it's just an extra stress. I got the kids at home. I got this. So he said, well, what's the objective? The objective isn't to have the Zoom or the Teams or WebEx meeting with your boss. The objective is to have good contact with your boss. So how else can you accomplish that? So he suggested that the woman suggest a daily kind of report in bullet point form to her boss in once a week meeting. And the boss was very receptive to that. So part of that is looking at, well, what are your objectives and what can you control? You can't control the fact that maybe you're working at home instead of on campus, but you can control maybe how you communicate with people. So Adrian, did you have any other of the chat things or any questions that came in yet? Okay. So how about what you can control versus what you can't? Oh, that's a beautiful one. Can you read what just came in? Because it went past on my screen, Adrian.
He who has a will to live can bear almost anyhow.
That's good. Oh, good. Okay, so thinking about what you can control, what you can't control. Adrian, if any of them are in on chat, just let me know. But typically when we're talking about this in a list, what happens is people feel that what they can control is their attitude. They can control how they feel in the morning. They can control their routine. They can control, how they're complaining or not complaining. They can control different things around them. Like I can set up my work environment and I can control that. And what they can't control is how long the pandemic lasts. They can't control if we're going to have a vaccine. They can't control if the politician that they want beyond their vote gets into office. They can't control lots of things. So the list of what we can't control is so much longer, but here's the key. The list of what you can control, why it's shorter, is so much more powerful. You control everything around you by your attitude and by, your feelings about how you'll be happy no matter what and productive no matter what. Yes, go for it, Adrian. I'm sorry. Did you want to add something?
Nope, you hit it. We've got attitude, environment, and then we've got myself and no one else.
Yes, exactly. Whoever said that, myself and no one else, is a very wise person, because that's ultimately it. And so in looking for ways just to every morning control our happiness, every evening, one of the things we're going to wind our way toward in a few minutes is having a morning ritual, a morning routine, and then a post-work decompression routine, which will help us from working at home and the working at home environment. And then as far as mental health, before I segue over to the teleworking tips, one thing I have been strongly advising people now for at least a year, and prior to even the pandemic, but certainly during the pandemic, is going on a media fast. And I have had so many students come to me and say, I've been doing that, and boy, is my life more empowering. So my advice would be this. Go on it. If you're going to do a media, make a determination how often you will do media. So for example, I do it once a day, and not only where you'll do it, but how you'll do it. So I do it once a day on a stream on my phone. So I'm not switching stations. I'm not reading 100 articles. I'm just going through a news feed on my phone, and then that's it. Now, my sister, the doctor, she said to me, never give an older person bad advice at night. And so even though I know some of you are extremely young, and I think by older, she meant 80s and 90s. So no one in this group qualifies. I would say that her advice is really good for any age group. Never give an older person, any person, bad news at night. We do have things like compassion fatigue, which mean we only have so much compassion we can give throughout the day. And we start to get a little burnt out and more needy ourselves toward the evening. We also have decision fatigue. Decision fatigue means we make over 35,000 decisions a day. I think it's something like 2,000 decisions food related alone. So try to really protect your headspace in the evening and really, allow that to be regenerative, as opposed to digging on CNN or Fox or MSNBC or something for one more statistic, one more fact. I strongly recommend, if you want to look at news more than once a day, to make sure you go to the goodnewsnetwork.com and read goodnewsnetwork.com headlines and stories. It's only about good news. It's very enlightening, and I think you'd like it. So go on your media fast. Okay, so we're just going to segue over in a few more minutes to the teleworking stuff, but this is something else I want to ask you. How do you make your decisions in the pandemic? How do you make your decision? Can I dash to campus to pick up this file? Can I go to Trader Joe's to shop instead of grocery delivery? What do I do with this? What do I do with that? So I'm going to share some really good advice that I heard that really has helped me through all the decisions making of being in a pandemic and quarantine. And it came from a doctor. And this doctor worked with people that were in very difficult situations with their children, heartbreaking situations. Their children were terminally ill or chronically ill, or maybe had very little hope left in their children's diagnosis. And so, because parents were very concerned about their children, they kept feeling like, of course, there must be something I can do, even though I'm not a doctor, to make this better for my child. So what they would do is deep dives on the internet, this rabbit holes, and going to one program after another and trying to figure it all out, and driving themselves absolutely crazy because they could never turn off the worry and never turn off the anxiety and the FOMO, the fear of missing out. They can never turn that off. So what he told and advised his patients, which I think really works well in a pandemic, is decide in 2-week windows. So you make your decision, and then 2 weeks later, you reassess. That means in the meantime, don't do anything else. So especially with COVID-19 spiking, with things happening, think about how you can make your decisions in 2 weeks windows. So I will share an experience where I definitely wanted to go to Trader Joe's. I love TJ's, and anybody that loves it, you know what I mean. But I was doing grocery delivery from a local agency, that was supporting, local business. I'm trying to support local business. And so I kept wanting to do TJ's, but every time I thought of it, I was panicky. Like, I hadn't gone grocery shopping. I didn't know what it was like. Was I going to catch COVID-19 from touching a cereal box? How is this going to happen? So it made me realize that I can't move forward and panic. But then I started to pivot. Like, I drove by one day to see what the line was like. I made a couple calls to them to see what it would be like. So that was in my pivot state where I was like, okay, I'm kind of open. I don't know if I'm ready. And then peace was when I finally said, you know what, I feel okay. So during this time, whatever your decision is, are you, like, it could even be adapting new technology. Am I going to do this? Oh my God, I'm so panicked about it. So maybe that's not the time to really move forward. Maybe it's the time to breathe, or to call somebody and say, hey, can you help me out? I'm total panic over learning this technology. Pivot is when you begin to be a little bit more open. You're like, oh, maybe I'll check out a couple workshops on this technology, or maybe I'll just, ask somebody to sign on and see how I do with it. Hey, I'm a WebEx pro. Email me. I'll get you on WebEx. And Adrian, I think, knows a ton about WebEx. But so, you have resources. You got friends in the business. And then the last one is peace. When you feel peaceful. So I made the hard decision to go to a wedding where most people would not be socially distancing. I am so careful in this quarantine. I can't even tell you, in this pandemic. But I made the decision. I got a lot of information. Almost everybody had a negative COVID test, myself included, and everybody was working from home. And I still wore my mask. I didn't care what other people were doing. And not a single person from the wedding, which was like a month ago, had any issues. And I think that if it wasn't my niece, I would never have gone. I wouldn't have done it for anybody else but her. But we have to make hard decisions all the time. And so it's better to make them in peace. I will tell you, in my long career, decisions made in panic almost never, ever, work out. Adriana, that comment went flash by. Can you just read it? Because I thought it was really wise.
Sure. It says about how you can do something, not how you can't.
Exactly. And I like that. And that gives you the empowerment. So, and it makes you do the peace kind of thing. So, okay. So when you're feeling stressed, part of working in a pandemic, teleworking, working with kids, all that, is really understanding how you're feeling. And if you're feeling stressed, not to like blow out an email towards your boss when you're really stressed at the kids being loud in the background. I mean, so part of it is really having this emotional intelligence. I know I teach a whole course on that as non-talk, but having this emotional intelligence to really get in touch with your emotions. And one thing that I do is, like, when I'm feeling a lot of emotions, first of all, I'm just started this. I haven't had even enough time to incorporate it in my handout, but for those who are interested in a little bit more emotional intelligence, there's a great thing called an emotional wheel. Brene Brown says, or I think that's her name, says that most of us only have 3 emotions. We're in touch with mad, glad, and sad, or mad, happy, and sad, something like that. But there's so many emotions in emotional wheel, and so part of it is just understanding. I like, and so anyway, so you can Google emotional wheel and you'll find some really cool stuff. So many interesting podcasts on emotional health and so forth. But this is something I like. When things are going a little stressful, I might appear to be one way about something. Like I might appear to be mad at somebody, but I'm really not. There's some other emotion that's masking. So I might say, I'm not mad at this technology. I'm frustrated at myself that I'm working too much, or I'm not mad at Annabelle. I'm frustrated at myself that I didn't take into account how slow she is to react to projects, and I should have. That kind of thing. So watch for these masking emotions and ask yourself these 2 important questions from a psychologist, friends. What am I thinking right now? What's my line of thinking? And then, of course, always ask yourself what you're feeling. But then what do you need? If there's something that you need, take a breath and ask and advocate for that need. It's really amazing. I mean, Tunxus, I haven't had a lot of experience at Tunxus, but what I have had has been very wonderful. I mean, Sue Passini kind of taken me under her wing the first day I was there with the codes and ushering me all around the campus, and just like a lot of really wonderful people. I was at the library because my charger bolted out when I had to use their charging station. They couldn't have been nicer to me. So really, figure out what you need and ask for it. And I see a good Google search site coming up, so that would be good to pay attention to and chat. And so obviously, as we go through the pandemic, we want to cope as positively as possible. And this is having positive coping mechanisms that express your emotions rather than suppress them. They're practical and they lead to action, and they make you feel better after you've done this. The whole idea is to feel better. I've been listening to some podcast on toxic positivity. And that's kind of like, not just, everybody's always be positive, be positive, be positive. But toxic positivity means you're denying your emotions. You're not expressing them. You're like, oh, everything will be fine. And the podcaster was talking about someone who had breast cancer. And a friend said that also had breast cancer said, oh, you're going to need to watch out for the minimizers. And she said, well, what do you mean the minimizers? She said, you'll see. So what a minimizer meant was that somebody, like she gave an example of during her breast cancer, she opened up to a friend and said, gee, I have breast cancer. And the woman just kind of tapped her on the back and said, you got this. And the woman said that comment, even though it was well intended, made her feel like she couldn't explore her emotions with this person. She couldn't talk about how she or how she felt. So again, with coworkers, we have to be careful of this, like, to just fill in the blank with cliches, or even that mantra, which is so wonderful. I mean, that can work against you if you're just kind of, every time someone's talking to you about a real life problem, you go, oh, everything will work out. We don't want to be dismissive. We don't want to do that. We don't want to be minimizers. We want to really give people vehicles to be able to talk about things, especially for people who are supervisors or, in charge of classrooms or whatever. So positive coping mechanisms is really a lot of important things. Okay, any questions, please put them into chat, and Adrienne will certainly take a look at them and give me a thumbs up and let me know what's going on. Okay, so what I want to do now is I want to start with some office mindfulness practices. One course that I teach at Ascentec is mindfulness, and it's really a lot of fun. We meditate, and everybody's at home, and I have them turn their cameras off. And people that have gone through a meditation class really tell me it's made such an amazing difference to them in dealing, not just during the pandemic, but just, even before the pandemic when I was teaching mindfulness, just such a big difference with stress. So the first thing, of course, is to pay attention to your body and to live with the water bottle. Don't forget to drink. A lot of times when we're in stressed environments, we tend to get dehydrated a little bit more. That actually happened to me a couple of weeks ago. I just went through a period where I was just working so much. I was dehydrated, and I woke up at night convinced I had COVID-19 because I had like a sore throat and I couldn't swallow. But I realized after I got up and talked to my sister that it was just pure and simple dehydration. So make sure to drink extra water. Do body scans throughout the day. We'll do one right now. I only can see 4 of you, so you don't need to worry about your camera on. But if you want, you can put your camera off and just really quickly, or quietly, I should say, not quickly, just take a nice deep in breath. And then take it nice through your nose and then blow out your mouth like you're blowing out birthday candles. So nice deep in breath in through your nose. I call it beach ball belly breath. Imagine that your belly is expanding like a beach ball, and then on your out breath, deflate your beach ball belly and let it out your mouth like you're blowing out birthday candles. So on the next in breath, I want you to say a word that you like love, positive energy, peace. Okay, so everybody try that. Nice in breath, deep in breath. And then on the way out, I want you to say a word like stress, tension, maybe even someone's name that's bugging you right now. So do a couple of nice deep in breaths saying a positive word and a nice deep out breath saying a negative word like goodbye, stress, or whatever. Do a couple of those. And on your next in breath, I want you to direct it to a part of your body that's giving you a little stress, like perhaps your shoulders, maybe your head, maybe you have a slight headache, maybe your body's, I don't know, a little crickety somewhere. So nice deep in breath in, direct it toward the body part. And on the out breath, just say bye. Do a couple more of those breaths. Okay, and now just open your eyes and I want to invite everybody to stretch. Just stretch, stretch, stretch. Be careful if you have some kind of injury that won't let you stretch. But yes, that's a good stretch, Colleen. And that little stretch for just a minute or two and that real breathing for a minute or two can shift everything. In a mindfulness book called Taming the Wild Elephant, he talks about basically doing a mindful breath every time you go through a doorway because the energy shifts. When you go through the doorway to the bathroom, different kind of energy. When you go to the doorway through the kitchen, different kind of bathroom. When you go the doorway through your designated office area, different kind of energy. So he said it's almost impossible to do that, but to try. Because when you're shifting and you do that mindfully, it really does make a huge difference in how you look. Another thing is honor the body stress, what it's saying. Just ask yourself, what's my body trying to tell me? Taking the frequent stretch and movement breaks is critical. I'm sort of trying to find my little arrow. Okay, now the next one is don't go on autopilot. And, again, pause before changing tasks. That's going to help you. We're so used to scurrying and hurrying, but if you take a pause and take a deep breath, that will help you. There's also mindfulness bell apps, which are you can buy them for Android, not buy them, excuse me, they're free for Android or iPhones, and it will chime like ding, very slightly, and that's your invitation to take a breath. It does it at random about once an hour or so. But again, the more little bit of mindfulness you can incorporate, the stretching. The next one is get away from your work area. And thank you. Get away from your work area and basically move or stretch at least 5 minutes an hour and schedule in short exercise or respite breaks. I'm going to show you when we come back to full screen my exercise dice, which I want to show you, which is really cool. And it's the way that you can fit a little bits and bursts of exercising in. Monotasking rather than multitasking. Batching emails. Don't answer your email every time one comes in unless it's extremely time sensitive, because otherwise you're going to be so fragmented through your workday. Assigning different times for certain tasks. A lot of productivity experts that I talk to will talk about the whole concept of, can you do like themes, like, so this is the next hour is my theme to kind of get my admin work done. My next hour is my theme to do this. And most time experts will say if you do 6 things in a day, and then, put out any fires that you have to, maybe there's phone calls you have to take or quick little notes you have to do, but try to do 6 things a day. Do one, finish it, do another, finish it, do another, finish it. And a desk workbook could be something that you keep on your workbook, like on your desk. I don't know where mine went. It's usually right here, but I won't waste time finding it. Oh, here it is. Oops, hang on for a second. It's just a book that's a little bit nicer with a spiral binder, and you put all your notes on your desk that you normally wouldn't, if you don't have time to put it into electronically. I think that these really work out well. Okay. Again, we already talked about being aware of our thoughts, learning I'm sorry, I went one page too far. Give me a sec. Learning the negative self-talk, being just very aware of that. And again, you may find yourself having a few little work resentments creep in, like, oh, why can't I get hold of that one? Or why isn't this ever coming to me quickly? Or boy, if I were at work, I could just get the file across the hall. So just be careful, because the problem with resentment is that it's like drinking a cup of poison and expecting someone else to die. I heard that once I saw that once in a college classroom, and I thought, kind of true. So just be careful. Be very mindful if you find yourself stressed or resentful about something. Take a deep thought and ask yourself, take a deep breath, I meant to say, and ask yourself, can I say this better? Can I think this better? And you will find, if you're aware of your thoughts and you can find a better way to think of it, that's not going to store up anything. Make the shift from complaining to helpful venting. Complaining is going circular. Venting gives you a release or a solution. And again, I'm not going to read these. You can kind of look at them yourself, but practice appreciation. Send more emails out to coworkers. Thank people more profusely. We all need it. I got the loveliest email this morning from a student that talked about how her experience was with online training. It just made my day. So do that kind of thing. Make sure that you're the appreciation addict in your office, and let everybody feel appreciated. You can do a gratitude journal. I pulled this one off the internet. It's kind of hard. It translates maybe not as dark as it should be. But if you do this, Xerox a bunch of them, put it in a 3-ring binder, morning gratitudes. What are 10 things you're grateful for? And so you can kind of read it. But I think if you did this, especially if you were feeling a little down, you did this for say 10 days, I think you'd find a really good difference. Okay, so let's go to some teleworking tips. Lightning round, so to speak. So the first thing is, if you're not doing this, have breakfast, get shower, and get dressed. And while you guys all love your leggings, if you're at all worried about concerning, losing weight or gaining weight, make sure to wear jeans at least once or twice a week, because that will tell the true story. And there's a lot of studies that show about the pandemic pounds, or the quarantine 15, or the COVID-19. So if you don't want that to happen, make sure you wear jeans once in a while. I will tell you a story about a young gentleman that signed on from one of the agencies, and he was nestled in like a sweatshirt. You could tell he just barely woke up. There was still sleep in his eyes. Even from a thumbnail sketch, I could tell that. And it was a very similar workshop that we teach at It's a 3-day. It's similar to this. It's Thriving While Teleworking, some title like that. And basically, he was with a bunch of powerful people, and he said, well, here's my problem. I wake up 4 minutes before I'm supposed to start. And everybody was like, oh, no, you need a morning routine. You have to get dressed. And so we actually worked on him, and he had a morning routine. And he got up a half an hour before work, and he got himself professionally situated. And in the next 2 weeks, he talked about it, and he said, what a difference it made. So make sure you have your morning routine. I myself still wear lipstick and jewelry because I want to feel professional. Every day online, or every day we're working virtually, can be Blur's day, like the old answer to the question, is it Wednesday or Thursday? And the answer is yes. Every day seems alike. We have to keep the professionalism in it. So any kind of practice that you can adapt that's going to help you is going to be better. And so here's some top teleworking tips. You can read this on your own, but there's some interesting statistics and studies. You know, 3% are showering, or sorry, 1 in 3, 33% show that they're showering less. 61% say they're doing their hair less, etc. So 91% of people say they're dressing more casually from home. Again, we're still in a professional environment. We want to wear professional dress as much as possible and have people feel our professionalism. I'll tell you something. I've been working at home part-time for a lot of years, decades. We're talking decades. And when I first started working from home, I was like 23. And so I would do like, working in my pajamas, getting up at any old time, as long as the work got done, what did it matter? And I found after a while that just didn't work. I needed to feel professional and to work professional. And so that's something I would pass on. So I always get dressed, even if it's unless say somebody catches me right after a gym workout or something, but I always get dressed. And I think that's really important. Okay, so K10 time is the next thing. This is something that comes from a woman named Kimberly who told me this was her secret. Her husband actually started it. He called it K10 time because his name was Kevin. She kept up the name because her name was Kimberly. But she makes sure before she starts any day, she takes 10 solid moments just to herself to align her energies, to get her coffee, to sit there, to think through her day. And she said since she started doing that, it made a huge difference from working from home. Another thing is to protect your mental, I'm sorry, I guess I left a word out there, mental wellness by addressing isolation. So if you look at the chart, a big chunk of the problems from working at home is the loneliness. So if you are self-isolated, you're working at home because maybe you live alone, or maybe you only see one other person all day and she is at the opposite end of the house. Again, think about how you deal with the isolation. There's wonderful articles. There's some good websites I have at the end to recommend different kinds of practices. If you feel like your mental health is kind of going a little bit downward, like you're a little depressed, figure things out, because there's so much good help out there in the internet. I myself am a big addict of podcasts. There are so many great podcasts on mental health, self-help. There's so many podcasts dedicated to working during the pandemic. If you do nothing else after today's workshop, I would say look at your podcast player and kind of download them. Get some good either downloads or just some podcasts lined up. So when you are feeling a little bit unproductive or frustrated, that you kind of play around with podcasts. Also, going back to the meditation, there's so many good YouTube meditations, like things you can do in the office for 10 minutes, things that you can do if you have anxiety. If you listen to these meditations, trust me, they will really, really work. Okay, another one is dedicate a place in your home specifically for work. So because in New Haven, we have broadband, everybody's on broadband remote learning, it really eats up the bandwidth. So make sure close out all your windows when you're working online in like meetings or something like that. I particularly have tied into my Ethernet with an Ethernet cable directly into my modem, and I have a network adapter. So I was kind of surprised to kick me off before, because those are two ways that I try to ensure that they won't. I believe in having a couple places, if at all possible, have laptop travel. So I have my sunroom, which is a bright, cheerful place in the back of my house where I work for certain types of tasks like curriculum development and answering emails. So if you can move your laptop from room to room, sometimes it gives you a different energy, and that's all you need to feel better. I'm sorry I don't have it. I left it downstairs in the yellow room, but I have something called a bill payment center that just has a slot that you can drop letters in, but you open it up. It's like a yay high kind of Tupperware thing. You can find it at Staples. And I kind of move that from room to room with all my stuff. And it helps. It has pencils, pens. It's kind of like a rotating office. So you can look at something like that. If you can't find it, drop me an email and I'll send you a picture of what it looks like. The next one is always setting timers and reminders and alarms. Do that for your break time too. Put a little alarm on. Put an alarm on for when you're supposed to end the day so you don't drive yourself crazy. Now, here's my thing. Keep calm and stop sending emails. And again, I stated this at the beginning. Just because you can doesn't mean you have to. You're perfectly capable of sending emails at 4 o'clock in the morning if you get up to go to the bathroom, but do you need to? Or it's a marathon, not a sprint. Okay, good. Daryl sent a virtual relaxation room in his email. I was glad to see that. Another thing is set assertive boundaries with coworkers. And again, good luck if they're 2 years old. And remember that I language rather than we language. So, let people know. So I feel blank when you blank because blank, so you can. So, I feel frustrated when I'm on a WebEx call and you interrupt me because, we've talked about this 100 times and that's time that I can't have background noise. So please be attentive to when I'm on WebEx. That kind of thing so people don't feel like you're picking on them. That's a really good little formula for stating your needs. Obviously, designating meal times and break times is really important. Otherwise, the pandemic pounds can come on, but, setting break times. And if you're eating at your desk all the time, please stop. Daryl doesn't want you to either, right, Daryl? Um, so really take time for yourself so you don't burn out. Just don't. I find myself doing that. And I also have this other rule, which is I don't eat standing up. So a lot of times I'll find I have my plate in my hand from the kitchen and I'm starting to eat while I'm walking. Try not to do that. Really take care of yourself. And obviously, if you wouldn't do it at the office, think twice before doing it at home. Things like, working in pajamas or being very lackadaisical or texting while you're listening to somebody at a meeting. If you're not going to do it at the office, don't do it at home. And obviously, embracing new technologies. One of the extremely lovely things that happened during my workshops is, Adrian, did you want to say something?
Yeah, we had close all the office utilities when their shift ends. That's a good one.
Okay, good. Good. Yes, absolutely. With the embracing new technologies, one thing that I have been just really heartened to hear is how many people are so willing to help other people. I've had students sign on and they'll do a tutorial on OneNote for organizing. So that could be a program that you can look into if you really want to organize more electronically. But so many people are so generous with their time and will give you. Sue Cassini helped me out to do something. Just people are so generous of their time to share. And so kind of find out who they are. Maybe you can put like a little email out and ask each other. Or if do me a favor, if you can help somebody do something in chat, just say, hey, I'm an expert in this, or you don't have to call yourself an expert, but I can help people if they need help with this. And again, I definitely can help you if you need help with WebEx. And then here's another couple things, and then we're going to end probably in about 5 to 10 minutes at the most, which are try the countdown formula when you're unmotivated. This comes from not just me, but lots of people do this. And like, for example, let's say you're trying to get motivated to download something or to do something. Just go, I'm going to do it on 1. And you go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's perfect for getting off the couch at night to go to bed. When you're like half asleep and you don't want to move, you just go, okay, I'm 1, I'm getting up and I'm going to bed. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A couple more teleworking tips. Never stop cold. When you have to stop, write in the document or on a Post-it note the next 2 or 3 things that you're going to do when you come back. If you're writing an email, just put a couple bullet points what the next things they are before you save it and draft. That has helped me so much. So you don't have to have all the momentum go on. Or you don't have to have all the momentum go on and have to restart it. Just put a couple good little tips. Okay, next one is set up the first project of the day the night before. I always do that. Like, you just have it on your desk ready to go or in a folder ready to go. And then a couple other things. Make sure you get out of the house. Now, it's getting to be a little too cold for this, but there's something called earthing, where if you're walking bare feet outside, it helps you connect to the electrons of the of the earth, and it helps you transfer energy from the ground to the body. So if that's a little woo-woo for you, try it anyway, because you'd be surprised. I've done that a bunch of times when I was feeling tired. I walked around my backyard for 3 minutes or 4 minutes. Now, don't do it during the snow. Also, standing is really important. The more you stand, the more you refresh your body. You can read this page on your own. And I will show you the exercise dice in a couple minutes when I go to the other screen to sign off. A couple of things that are very useful is making a mindful morning routine. And the first thing should be make your bed. If you make your bed, the first thing of the day is accomplished, and you are great. You're making your bed. And then if you're miserable, you have a made bed to go into. But think about 5 or 6 things you can do in the morning and try to make your morning more of a routine as try to make the post work decompression routine. What are 4 things you can do at the end of the day rather than just, turn off your computer and go look for chocolate in the fridge? Not that I would ever do that. Find like 4 little actions you can do to segue into. Okay, so here are some cool articles, and I'm going to share just a couple of tips. Okay, if you're home alone, one thing that I think is important is set up times to call people and do more virtually. So that you can be on screen with people or you can talk to people, because there is a sense of isolation when you're home alone. The marriage meltdown, there's a really cool thing in that article, and it talks about having an invisible shirt, which means you say to your spouse, when you see me wearing this shirt, means leave me alone. Pretend I'm not there. I'm having one of those days. I love that idea. And I think that that's a really cool thing. And I see people putting into chat some other wonderful ideas for, marriage meltdown. Of course, talking to your spouse, doing the I feel when you kind of thing. Yes, the cloak of invisibility. You're absolutely right, Mr. Wright, on that one. And so I love that idea when I saw that. You can also do something like put a little something like a post-it note, or like they suggest under the kid thing to wear a tiara like this. Like, see my tiara? I have my tiara on. So, because I decided the other day, if we weren't going to get a president, I'd elect myself queen, right? So, so have a tiara that you use, and so your kids know that mommy is on the phone, or don't. Like when mommy has the tiara on, that means no, 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 unless you're, really need me for whatever, then you have to obey mommy. Okay, so the rest of it is just kind of a couple resource pages and pages about what to do. I just am going to go back so I can sign off and say goodbye and thank you and show you my little exercise ball that I've been promising. So give me a second to stop sharing and to come on. It's my fondest hope that those things that we've talked about can be of some help or assistance to you. My feeling always is just keep plugging away, listen to a podcast, get a new idea, recharge your battery, because we're always going to need to recharge batteries. This is Golden Exercise Dice. I found it on Amazon.com. It has 12 sides, and you roll it, and it's just a way to get a little extra activity. I like this one. It says water break, but it says that you can buy it about $10 on Amazon. It has things like if you want to get a little bit more activity during your day, it has things like these are for people who are pretty active. I work out a lot, but 10 frog jumps or 10 burpees. And if you want to get a little bit of exercise, however, you can make your own with self-care practices. Like you can kind of, do something along this way, like maybe put a bunch of cards in an index box, or clean out a bunch of index cards in a Kleenex box, put self-care things you can do to reward yourself while working from home and pull one out. There's so much you can do from working from home to make it loving and enjoyable. Remember to do a couple of things that I think are important. Don't make decisions out of panic. Take time to really practice self-care. Really think of, mantras and mentally how you can encourage yourself. Read up on how other parents are doing things with kids and with husbands and wives working in the same space. Change your room, change your environment. Each room, each place you kind of can change will make you feel a little bit differently. Above all, have fun, stay safe. I will be there for you if you need me. Just send me an email. We have a ton of wonderful workshops at Nuntech you guys can take for free. Just contact your HR department. We also have free one-day workshops coming up through Victor, and you can contact him that will be here in the spring. And I wish everybody a wonderful, wonderful time through the rest of this. And please join me in saying the phrase after COVID, because that will create the energy for after COVID to be a thing of the past. So I will see you all on campus after COVID. And if you were in my workshop, stop and say, hey, I was on your workshop. And you all have a wonderful, wonderful day and stay safe. And now I'm going to turn it back to Adrian or Daryl. And thanks for the couple extra minutes.
Margaret, thank you so much. One question I sort of had, and I want to do it sort of in the interest of time. A lot of the
Yes.
feedback that I get from faculty and staff is that students are far less engaged. What's one piece of advice you have for folks to sort of put out there,
Yes. Yes. Yeah,
to different
I have
students?
a lot of advice on that. And I just taught a class called WhatsApp to Zoom, and it's all on virtual presentations. So I'll be teaching that again next semester. So any teachers, please. We had this amazing teacher at UConn that was like, oh, she blew me away when she did her presentations. But that's kind of what we talked about. So more graphics in your slides if you're doing PowerPoints. Also, my sister, who teaches in the nurse practitioner program at URI, told me from the beginning to really insist on a cameras on policy. You get so much more energy from your students and they get it from you when you have cameras on. And so now my classes, we always do cameras on, and the only excuse for not is someone doesn't have a WebEx, someone doesn't have a camera, or it's real technical difficulties. Also, to do a lot more participation with them. Here's one thing I've learned as a tip. When you're calling on students, don't say, well, I have a question about blank, 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 blank. What do you think, Adrienne? Because she's not going to be prepared for it. Say the name first. So you could say Adrienne, because now her ears will perk up and she'll be more ready for the question. And so, Adrienne, what is one blah, 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 blah. Now she's more ready. Another thing I would say is to give people, because not all people are really quick up to the money and adapting all this technology. So give them some questions and chat to think about ahead of time before you call on them. But any other teachers that want to pick my brain, I'm around. So just, hit me up. And hopefully that answered it okay.
That was good. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Margaret, I just want to thank you. I think what I'll do is just in the interest of time, if folks have questions, they can reach out to you via email. If I get anything, if Adrienne gets anything, we'll be sure to forward it to you. I do want to give a shout out to Gary Cara. Gary, thank you for getting us to this point and having Margaret present. So thank you. Thanks
for the opportunity.
Yeah. And I do want to just mention to folks, if you haven't already, take a look at the link that I sent out on mental health and wellness. There's a number of resources that are available on the college's website. If folks feel so inclined, they should do everything they can to provide that information to their students that they're working with, the students and families that you interact with. And again, Margaret, I just want to thank you for all this. It's really important, very timely, and extremely relevant. So,
my pleasure. And I appreciate all the people that said thank you to me on chat. I read all the notes and they were very sweet. And I just typed into chat my email address. So you can, it's on the handout, but just in case you don't have it, it's in chat. And really, I just want to say this, we're a team. I've been working for the state for a long time. I've been working for a lot of the different colleges, and I've always felt like you guys were home to me. And so I'm happy to help. And, we're all going to get through this together. We really will. And we'll come out stronger and better teachers and better staff people and better facilitators and everything that we're doing. All the admin people that make us run, we really love you. And so everybody, and if I forgot anybody, everybody, making clean campuses, everything. So thanks, Daryl.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. And I can't agree more. I want to thank everybody for getting us to this point this semester. This is, when they say unprecedented, that's the understatement, I think, of the year with everything going on. So I just want to very publicly thank everybody, all the employees, the faculty and staff, the essential staff, everybody for getting us to this point. I am blessed to be working with all of you. So thank you. If you have ideas and feedback after today's meeting about future all college meetings, please reach out. Please email me. I'm happy to support whatever ideas you have. So thank you, everybody. We're going to sign off now. And again, my thanks to Margaret and Adrienne as well. So be safe, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.